Hello, this is Jean Marie Ward for Buzzy Magazine. With me today is writer, editor, and Capclave guest of honor, Nick Mamatas. Welcome, Nick.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. You edit the Haikosoro line for Viz Media. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about the line?
Sure. Haikosoro is an imprint for Japanese science fiction and fantasy in translation, and soon we'll be branching out to some English language original material too. Basically, Viz Media, as you may know, is a huge company for anime and manga. Pokemon was theirs, Naruto was theirs, and a few years ago they thought, we've had some success bringing over anime and manga from Japan, why not start bringing over prose fiction from Japan as well?
That includes things like Battle Royale, which some people say was the basis for the Hunger Games.
Yes, some people do say that. The author, Kishiro Takami himself, doesn't actually say that. He says that every book has something to offer. But yeah, absolutely, Battle Royales are a huge hit.
What are your current titles?
Currently we have a few books out that I'm really excited about. One is Genocidal Organ by Project Ito.
What's that? That sounds kind of insane.
Everybody dies, so it's one of those feel-good books.
Oh, good, yes.
Readings. A couple of years ago we put out his book Harmony, which won the Philip K. Dick Award, or the second place, the special citation for the Philip K. Dick Award. And Genocidal Organ is basically about almost current society in a future where someone has determined that there's a grammar to genocide. So if you say the right words and the right kind of political propaganda, you could cause a genocide.
Oh,
and
God.
one man's trying to stop it.
I hope so.
Yes.
I hope somebody's trying to stop it.
And we also have, here's the visual aid portion of this
Yes,
video.
we like visual aid.
Coming out this month is Belka, Why Don't You Bark by Hideo Furukawa, which is a secret history of the Cold War and the space race as seen through the eyes of dogs. Belka, of course, is the first Soviet dog in space that came back alive.
That sounds cool. And a lot more, shall we say, optimistic
yes,
than the other title. Yeah. What's involved in editing a translation?
Well, sometimes it's easier than editing a normal manuscript, and sometimes it's harder. Well, it's easier because you have to deal with the author, right? You deal with the translator, and so all the decisions are already made. So I can't go to an author and say, you know what, this needs another 25,000 words, or can I please remove 25,000 words? So a lot of decisions are already made for you because the book has already been published in Japan and has, it's a set piece, it's a set product. It can be difficult because things can be very difficult to translate culturally. Even things like certain names mean a variety of things in Japanese. And certain numbers may mean a variety of things in Japanese that are utterly lost in an English translation. Even the first person pronoun I exists in very different ways in Japanese. You have the casual I, the I of a person who's superior to the inferior, the imperial I, all sorts of things that totally get missed.
And
that's one reason why, for example, there's almost very few speech tags in dialogue in Japanese fiction. Because we know automatically from reading Bonku or Wakashaki, that kind of thing, which I is who's speaking. But we don't have that context in English. We have to add speech tags.
So do you speak Japanese yourself?
Not a word.
But
my boss says I'm her English language brain.
Ah, yes. Okay. Sometimes that's very helpful, having the outside eyes.
Yes.
Which gets into my next question, actually. Does working as an editor make it easier or harder to write for yourself?
Easier, but not because I'm working for an editor, just because I have a job at all. Back when I was a full-time freelancer, you're always, running around for the next job. Even when I need $50 for an electric bill, can I do somebody's resume? Can I write some cover letters for somebody? Can I just get on the phone and beg the person to send the check today, not this afternoon, so to get out in the morning mail? Can I go sell some blood or do some, lab rat experiments at Harvard when I was living in Boston, for example? All sorts of things. Now, with a real job, I have a lot more time to do real writing. And since then, I've gone from writing a novel every 3 years to writing 2 novels a year, and that kind of thing, because I had extra time.
That's great production. In fact, getting into the novels, your latest is Bullet Time. It was released earlier this year, 2012. What exactly is bullet time? Well,
if you remember the movie The Matrix, bullet time was the bullet very slowly coming toward the camera, and then Keanu Reeves doing whoa, and missing the bullet like that. And Bullet Time, the book, is about a kid who shoots up his school, or maybe he doesn't shoot up his school. Basically, we see alternative realities where he makes the decision in different ways. So it's all based around this idea when he's about to pull the trigger and whether he does or not. And that slow bullet time allows us to explore different alternative universes. The book itself has 3 first-person narrators, all the same person, and a third-person narration from leading up to this bullet time where he decides to or not to shoot up his school.
This book, like most of your novels, is published small press.
Yes.
Yet you edit for one of the larger presses. Why do you choose to go the small press route for your own fiction?
Political reasons, mostly. I like independent presses. I spent a long time working with them and working for them, and I appreciate them more than New York presses. I think a lot of New York presses have sort of cookie-cutter modes. They can make cookie-cutter decisions. Some great things from New York, obviously, but almost everything in the past decade or so has come from outside of New York. That's been great. Mm-hmm. Like anime manga. Mm-hmm. If you went to Barnes & Noble or Borders 20 years ago and said, oh, we want to put out these comic books, but they're in black and white, and they're for girls, and they're no superheroes, and we want to print them backwards, mm-hmm. they would have laughed you out of the store. But now, anime and manga are huge because of companies outside of New York publishing. Mm-hmm. Same thing with urban fiction. Urban fiction's black authors writing about the black street experience. And those all were self-published originally. And only after years of making money and selling 25,000, 50,000 copies did New York say, oh, we should be less racist and publish some black authors. Mm-hmm. And Romantica is the other big one. That's romantic erotica, a lot of sexy stuff. That was the huge ebook hit back before the Kindle. That's the only thing that ebooks were selling, and those all came, from outside of New York. Mm-hmm. And now all New Yorker lines have these sort of hot, spicy romance lines. And of course, the biggest book of the year was former fan fiction, 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
Also came from outside of New York. So things happen outside of New York, and that's what I like. I also like, on a traditional level, just having my editor on GChat, as opposed to having to call and leave a message and get a message back 3 days later. Mm-hmm. I like getting paid actually on time because I can tell an editor, please send me my money. Mm-hmm. And they will say, okay, I'll make sure it happens, as opposed to saying, okay, I'll send a note to accounts payable, and in 6 weeks you'll get your money.
Yes, a note to accounts payable, and then sent to your agent.
That's
and then
right.
to you.
Yeah, yes.
So what are you working on now?
I am working on a crime novel called Love is the Law that's being put out by Dark Horse Press. Mm-hmm. They're mostly a comic book publisher, but they have a prose line as well. Basically, it's Harriet the Spy as a teenage punk rocker who's into communism and Aleister Crowley in 1989 on Long Island. And next year, also coming out, is a zombie novel called The Last Weekend. It's basically Charles Bukowski meets the zombies.
Oh, God. Yes, well, you had Cthulhu meeting the Beat Poet,
That's right.
I suppose it's only natural.
Yep, I'm a big fan of pastiche.
Yes. You mentioned that some English language originals will be coming out from Haikusoro soon?
Yep, well, we put up an anthology called The Future's Japanese already, and that was had several Japanese authors and several American and Kingdom authors all writing on Japanese themes. Mm-hmm. And people have really enjoyed The Future's Japanese. Next year we have coming out a collection of Japanese-themed short stories and novellas by Catherynne Valente.
Oh, great.
The famous author who lived in Japan for several years and often revisits Japan and her Japanese experiences in her prose, and we're bringing them all together with some new material as well.
That sounds cool.
Yep.
We're almost at the end of the interview. You're almost free. Anything you'd like to add?
I'd just like to use my visual aid again.
Okay.
And I strongly recommend you buy Belka, Why Don't You Bark by Hideo Furukawa, which is a fantastic book. It has everything from the Vietnam War to Mexican wrestlers to psychic dogs to Yakuza girls. And it's just a really exciting, fun, and very strange book. If you like Haruki Murakami, you're going to like Belka, Why Don't You Bark.
Psychic dogs and Mexican wrestlers.
That's right.
I like it already. Thank you very much,
Thank you very much.